Okay, hello everyone. This is our new Inside Web3 Careers podcast. This is Andrew Liu from Mighty DAO research team. I was a finance person from traditional industries, and our topic today is a day of head of finance. Before I introduce our guest, I'd like to take a moment to give you a brief introduction about Mighty DAO. Mighty DAO's core mission is to connect high-quality talents with opportunities in the Web3 industry. We bridge the gap between skilled professionals and positions across the Web3 landscape and offer the latest insights in this field. And back to our topic today, in the world of Web3 finance, the role of a head of finance has long gone beyond traditional accounting and budgeting. They are also responsible for managing financial operations across multiple legal entities, building financial models, and supporting business development and decisions. So today, we invited Mohamed Sheikh, Head of Finance at ChainSafe Systems, to share his journey from traditional consulting to Web3. He also successfully implemented Cryptoworth, integrating on-chain wallets with traditional accounting systems and significantly enhancing financial transparency and asset tracking across wallets and chains. So, hi, Mohammed. Welcome. Would you please briefly introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Mohamed. I'm currently head of finance in Web3 consulting R&D firm called ChainSafe. We operate in Canada. We also have two offices in Berlin, Germany, as well as Croatia. ChainSafe does a lot of the blockchain development work for Ethereum Foundation, Polkadot, and Filecoin, as well as some of the emerging protocols. I started my career in traditional finance, doing auditing. I was working at Deloitte to get my CPA, doing traditional audit, tax, risk management. Then I worked at large multinational companies in the insurance industry, pharmaceutical industry. It was very broad. I would say it helped me get into Web3 because you have to wear many hats. So I was doing business partnering, budgeting, financial reporting, and strategic finance. And then I eventually pivoted into Web3. It was something I was always interested in, helping early stage crypto startups, scaling finance functions from scratch, which means, setting up a QuickBooks, setting up accounts payable, setting up payroll processes. So I think the consulting was a key bridge for me, transitioning from a very traditional corporate world into eventually where I am now in a Web3 finance community.
Okay. Yeah, you already mentioned that the question I want to ask, the second question is that your consulting experiences helps a lot for you transition into the Web3 world. But could you share some tips on how to find clients when you are a consultant?
Right. So I think the key point that helped me being successful finding clients, it was definitely about curiosity, getting engaged with ecosystems because, there's so many different blockchain projects out there, but definitely showing an interest and understanding of what the protocol is building, being active in the community, whether it's Twitter or Telegram or Discord. So that definitely helped to build exposure, because, they would ultimately know, oh, this person's actively involved in the community versus, you go to a lot of these channels and sometimes they might get spammed with someone saying, hi, I'm so-and-so looking for a job. Who can I speak to? So I found that those don't help as much because, there's hundreds of thousands of those every day versus if you take an active role to get involved in a community, you understand who are the key players in that ecosystem, and you take a genuine interest to add value, then definitely that would make a big difference. So I found, hey, I was active in this ecosystem, spent a lot of time doing their beta testing. I spent a lot of time, whether it would have been adding liquidity or playing with DeFi or something. And so it gave a lot of talking points when I was very familiar with a certain ecosystem or certain players, and it gave me a lot more conversation. Then that would build trust, because I think the biggest thing was building trust. So it wasn't necessarily, hey, how did you find X client? It was, I was engaged in ecosystems. I went to any of their spaces. Whenever I attended spaces, I tried to ask questions or leave comments so that they see this is a familiar face in their community. And so that ultimately helped me, sort of building a brand that, it's not just a everyday person, but it's someone who has finance expertise and he's also actively involved in the ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. And the next is that we would like to get a glimpse into your day as a head of finance. What does a typical day look like for you in ChainSafe Systems?
Sure. So, that's a tricky question because one thing that's quite clear in the crypto world is that, it's very volatile. So that also impacts when you work in the industry, that you have to be ready where there's no such thing as a typical day. What you're doing one day versus the next day is completely different, which is, not comparable to when you're working at a large multinational company that has all the infrastructure, has all the sort of timelines and the annual schedule. So definitely working in crypto makes you stay on your toes. You have to be very much ready that, hey, I don't know what today's going to present. I could think, hey, these are the challenges, but you might get market volatility. You might get the fact that the industry narrative changes so much, so the nature of our clients might change. So that's definitely a big thing I've learned as a day in the life, that there is no really like cold cut specifics, but there are some things that are sort of general that typically you have to oversee, which is like core operations, some things like payroll, where payroll is different because you might be paying people in stablecoin. So that means setting up multi-sig wallets or some sort of function to have stable coins. There's so many new platforms out there nowadays of how to convert fiat currency to stable coins. Because crypto is an industry where people are globally remote, then you'll have contractors all over the world, and this person might not want stable coins, but we need to arrange different payroll systems and providers based on what country people are operating in and the method of payment. So that's definitely a big thing. Burn management is essentially checking the company treasury. How much expenses do we have on a monthly basis versus our cash flow? So that's something we actively monitor. Again, being in a crypto industry, the big difference is that you have cash, but you also have digital assets, meaning Ethereum or stable coins, or if you're working for clients and getting paid in crypto, that is ultimately assets that we need to manage in terms of our company runway. So payroll, managing the runway, and then closing the books, that's sort of like traditional finance, your monthly financial reports. So I would say that's a big part of it. And then there's things that are cross-functional, which are very important, meaning supporting product teams, supporting other teams within the company. They always want to know how much runway do they have, but also profitability analysis. What is their expenses? I think that's key for a Web3 company, especially when you're venture capital backed and you've raised funding. is to be mindful of the company expenditures, to be mindful of how much they're spending. So I think that's key. That's something everyone looks to the head of finance for managing expense runway. So like I said, things change based on the nature of the business, based on, the market's doing great versus not great. So you'll find that you get more clients or less clients, or the niche of what that company is focusing on. You have to be very liquid because the industry changes. So you can't be set in stone. You have to listen to what the market tells you sometimes.
Okay, thank you. It's interesting to hear you say that every day is a different day. So our next question is that if every day is different, then you have new things every day. That for one day, how do you know that today's problem or today's task have been completed?
That's a tricky one. How do you know when you've really reached the end goal? I mean, you do have to have first principles or some overall sort of objectives. So we do operate and I think every Web3 company has to operate with some sort of framework in mind, meaning you have to do some sort of strategy setting, some sort of goal setting. So there's ways you can sort of measure, are we getting towards the goal, or are we getting towards some sort of tangible results? As a finance person, there is frameworks where, you might have to ensure you get payroll done. So you'll know it's done when your employees get paid and you've sorted out all sorts of payment issues. You'll know when you've done your compliance, meaning the financial reports, whether it's board deck to investor relations. I think a big part is just managing the stakeholders. Finance specifically has the job of serving people within the company, people externally, whether it's investors or regulators or tax authorities. So I think, how do we measure how we're doing? I think it's just keeping everyone that we have as key stakeholders to make sure they're happy.
Okay. Thank you. And now let's go to our next question. Is that this question is about business operation. So compared to traditional industries, what's the most important thing for a Web3 finance leader when driving for the success of the organization? For example,
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Is that, for example, is it financial planning analysis is the most important thing, or asset management, or something else?
Right. So there's definitely key differences from traditional finance. I've seen some people who do extremely well because they understand the key differences, versus I've also seen people who can't thrive and can't function in this industry because they resist those key differences. The biggest differences, of course, is you're not only managing fiat cash, which is, US dollar or Canadian dollar or euro. You're also managing tokens. With managing tokens, you have to be very comfortable navigating Blockchain Explorer, understanding what a transaction or hash key on a Blockchain Explorer means, but also being comfortable to operate with so many different wallets, multi-sigs for security. These are things that are very different than traditional finance. If we're doing consulting work across different chains, and they want to pay us on Optimism Network, or they want us to send a receiving wallet address, oftentimes we have to spin up a new wallet. These are skills that you learn. You have to be very curious to learn, and it won't be something that you see from traditional finance experience. That's where curiosity and deep dive takes place. So I wouldn't say per se that it's a specific financial planning skill or reporting or auditing. I would say it's more along the lines of being able to adapt to something that's changing. The infrastructure might not necessarily be perfect. When you're using multi-sig wallets, it's very challenging. It's not something that we're sort of used to. I think as time develops, the payments and infrastructure in Web3 will get better. So I would say that's the key difference. So there's no like playbook. You have to be able to operate with your curiosity hat, definitely constantly thinking curiosity. So you have to sort of blend the accounting standards, which was US GAAP, for example, with on-chain reality and on-chain transaction flow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. We talk about the US GAAP or accounting standards, and we know that the Web3 is an industry lacking regulations. So what's your approach to this lack of regulation, or where do you find the latest update of regulations from, from officials? Or could you share with us an example when you want to book a transaction, but there's no accounting guidance for it?
So I would say, first of all, how do I stay current? I think that's definitely very important. I am part of the Web3 finance community, where
Web3 finance community.
Yeah, there is a Web3 finance community. It's actually called Web3 Finance. So by being there, I do have bi-weekly meetings with other finance leaders. We do in-person events. When I'm at those events, people do talk about statement of digital assets and certain upcoming US GAAP changes and rules. So that helps me to understand what the industry key issues are. I think that's very critical because it's changing rapidly. So networking and speaking to other people, but also staying current. They do some sort of publication every now and then that talks about what are current issues. So that's definitely very helpful. There's newsletters out there. The Defiant, it's crypto policy and DeFi, Coin Center, Mazari sometimes does reports. So I think those kind of reports, sometimes you get like a summary version of them. It helps you to understand what's crypto asset reporting framework and what are some key topics or key issues that are going on. There's crypto CFO Telegram or Slack groups. I think that's very helpful. When I check those groups, I usually check what are people talking about. So that helps me to stay current on what, the big critical issues are. In terms of my own day-to-day functions, I wouldn't say there's huge issues just because after a while you get used to recording the same type of transactions. But things you learn is like, hey, these wallets have a vesting, they're not, readily available for sale. So stuff like that is when you know that you don't record it as an asset yet because you can't sell it. It's not liquid. Those are things you sort of, I would say, through experience you learn about.
Okay. And just a follow-up question. You said the Web3 finance community and some reading newsletters or reports and things like that. And I would like to know how much time would you spend on this? For example, 3 hours a week or
Not per se. Let's say an hour a week.
An hour a week. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've learned to be efficient on these things. Sometimes you can, if someone releases a 100-page report, I'm probably not going to read that. I'm probably going to get ChatGPT to give me a summary of the top 10 bulletins or something along those lines. So I've leveraged sort of like tools to help summarize these reports.
Okay. Yeah. The AI is a great help. Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And our next question is about team management. How do you approach the team stability, especially in the remote settings? Are there any measures you take to reduce the turnover risks or ensure business continuity?
Okay, so team management. Definitely when you have remote and global remote, it's a different world than a traditional office where you meet each other in person. So it does require, I would say, more active management, more active communication, getting the team together more regularly so people don't just like disappear into their own bubble. As a leader, I think that's very critical. I think a lot of crypto companies might do like once a year offsite whether it's in person and, that's obviously expensive, getting people from across the world, or just quarterly or monthly, like all team sort of virtual meetings. That's very important for building that level of community within an organization, especially Web3 global remote. Um, yeah, I think it's always about empowering people. A lot of people who work in the industry, they really want to be in crypto. They really like Web3 and they believe in the values of decentralization, and they're excited about being in a new industry and new technology. So I think a lot of people are already intrinsically motivated.
Okay. So we don't have to worry too much about their stability. They only
You're gonna get volatility because the industry is so volatile. So, when the market
Mhm.
is crashing like crazy, people get more fearful of losing their jobs, and it impacts a lot of companies. So you do just have to deal with that. But I think that's any new industry. So any new industry is going to have that volatility and instability. But you just sort of manage it.
So if one or two team members just leave, and do you have to do their jobs by yourself?
Uh, because we're lean teams, like we're not a team of 30 people or 20 people within
Okay.
finance, if one person did leave, then definitely someone else would have to be the next man up. But I think also that a lot of times, because you're wearing so many different hats, you have to be ready to do everything. And
Okay.
that's mostly my job as a leader, is to make sure if this person disappeared tomorrow, could I do everything they had to do to keep the lights on until I found a replacement, for example? Then, that's definitely my responsibility, or anyone who's a finance leader would have to have that, level of ownership and detail. I think that's different than a traditional company. Traditional company where you might have a way bigger team, you might have more stable operations. You might have a stable business. If somebody leaves, maybe there's 10 people or something like a larger team size, and it's easier to cover, versus in
Mm-hmm.
Web3, everybody has to be ready to do everything.
So maybe maybe could we say that for finance people from traditional industries, maybe it's a good suggestion for them to do from the basics, to start from the basics, like accounting and tax, right? It's not possible for them to be head of finance right away,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I agree.
Mm.
I agree. As a head of finance, you have to have a strong foundation.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. This is a great insight for me and for our listeners. Okay, thank you. And um, let's move on to our next question. Is that do you have any personal dreams or plans for what you would like to do next in this Web3 space?
Man, that's tricky because Web3 is,
Uh-huh.
it's evolving. It's rapidly, growing.
And what are you looking forward to?
I really like the AI narrative within Web3. The
Okay.
overlap of Web3 and AI is something I'm still trying to understand. Like, there is decentralized infrastructure, decentralized chat GPT. Um, I do like that, but I would say in Web3, I've been very focused on helping specifically finance functions, um, how to leverage AI tools to support a finance function. There's definitely challenges with, people who have difficulties with multi-sig wallets, finance systems that plug into blockchain explorers that help CEOs understand their financial positioning. So I would say with Web3 myself, I've used a lot of tools. For example, Cryptoworth is a subledger that connects from blockchain to um, QuickBooks or any sort of accounting system. Cryptoworth, Cryptio, Bitwave, Trez Finance. There's many of these products out there. I've tried to use all of them. I've played around with all of them so I can understand the value proposition of each one, and where my position stands as someone who is well versed in accounting software, financial planning and analysis software, budgeting software specific to crypto industry. So I would say leveraging those tools, but also AI, are the key things that I see as my dream or plan to how to sort of best serve, within the industry.
Okay. Yeah, AI is another great trend.
For sure.
Okay. And and my last question is for finance people, and both junior and senior ones from traditional industries. They are curious about entering Web3. So, is there anything you tell them to prepare or to focus on early? Like just now, you mentioned that the foundation is very important, but how much time do they need to spend to make them ready for the foundations and go a level higher, or anything else? Any suggestion from you?
Right.
Thank you.
So I think something that I've learned is it's not necessarily, hey, you need to spend a lot of time as an accounting professional and get really good and spend this many years in core accounting or core tax, because a lot of times you learn on the job anyways. But I think the key is Web3 requires or rewards proof of work. So not just the credentials, meaning not just, hey, I went to this big school. I would say Web3 industry doesn't care about necessarily look at my resume. And, nowadays when there's a job opening, there's 10,000 or 100,000 people applying to one job. Obviously that's a bit exaggeration. Because it's global remote, it's open to so many more people to apply. But Web3 values transparency and proof of work, meaning people want to see what you've done, what you've contributed to, if it's finance specific, it's sort of like, what value add have you done? If you're active in a Web3 community, it will help you to stand out. Sometimes people are early adopters of a certain niche or certain blockchain protocol or NFTs or DAOs, infrastructure and certain things of that nature. Like as a student, you could potentially do things to add value where you're building a dashboard. There was something I did one time for one AI project where I was like, hey, do you guys keep track of your staking program by region based on certain demographics and this to do more investor relations that target certain regions or certain pools? But there's certain analytics that I think you don't necessarily learn this in school, but you can play with DeFi Llama or certain blockchain specific analytical tools. I think there's one called Flipside. Flipside Crypto is an example of a place where you can go and you can play with intelligence using AI, data science, and it helps blockchains grow. But then it's more like, how about myself as a user? If I start posting on Twitter or LinkedIn, that's going to help me grow my career per se, because people are going to say, whoa, this guy adds value and he has a lot of insights. Versus just saying, look, I worked here and this is my resume. That doesn't really cut it anymore. They want to see contribution. They want to see someone who goes beyond the surface. You don't need to be a developer. Sometimes maybe a finance person can write articles about, tokenomics of different coins and do protocol updates or help a DAO by saying, hey, do you want me to help you do some sort of budgeting? And I have a dashboard skill I can build. I can run community calls, or I can summarize governance proposals. There's so many things people can do by joining communities on Twitter, Farcaster, Discord. But the key is to engage. So if you're just in the background and you don't talk, nobody will know you. But if you engage and you help others, you start building a reputation. Web3 industry moves very fast. So the real edge isn't about how much knowledge you have. It's showing curiosity and consistency. Curiosity because people will say, well, this person asks very insightful questions, or they take a lot of time to do deep dive and deep learning. Consistency will help you build brand because you show up and people start recognizing you and they associate you to having a lot of value.
Well, yeah, well, really helpful. I think the credentials are not enough, and we need to add value and build brand for our own for ourselves. That's the critical thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mohammed. This is the questions from my side, and I believe our listeners have their questions. So if any of you, our listeners, have questions, please just ask, or you can ask me for help to ask the questions, to raise the questions. Any one of you, our listeners, do you have any questions?
Hello, Mohammed. This is Sober. And may I know, in Web3, are there any tools or asset management platforms you frequently use for work? Or do you use any specific Web3 accounting platforms that you will recommend?
That's a great question. So there's a lot of tools out there for Web3, which connect, blockchain to tax and accounting systems. That would be, Cryptoworth is what I use. CoinTracker is great. CoinTracker is very famous. Cryptio, Bitwave. So there's several of those that connect blockchain data to, QuickBooks and so forth. And then there's, DBank or Zapper, that's for tracking wallet level DeFi. Gnosis Safe, Gnosis. Gnosis Safe is for multi-sig wallets. That's to process payments when you need multiple people to sign off and for treasury management. Notion is really important. Notion is important for async collaboration. That's when, as a team, we need to document processes. For example, if we have 100 different wallets as a company, we need to manage what each of these wallet does. So Notion is a very important tool to learn how to use for keeping track of budget documents, KPIs, and then of course there's Slack alerts for bots. Whenever there's wallet inflows, like money comes in, we can set an alert, real-time updates. I think that's it. And then of course Excel. Excel is a really big tool. Oh, and there's another financial planning and analysis tool called Causal. Causal, I believe it's Causal. That's really good because it allows you to do financial modeling with crypto and fiat currency. And so that's really helpful for startups who want dynamic dashboards.
Great. Thank you for sharing this so practical. So maybe could you share with us this name and in the Telegram group that we can share with our community members? That would be very helpful.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Hi,
Any other
Mohan.
questions?
I'm Kai. Yeah.
Hi, Kai. Hi.
Hi. Hello. Hello, Mohan. I'm Kai, and I want to ask a little bit deep. So you say you use many AI, and you mention lots of crypto tools to save times and focus on daily finance tasks. And I want to ask what the way of thinking that's help you pick and use those tools very well, and what's the key finance skills to let you get the real value from all these tools?
Like a lot of it has been trial and error for me. Because the tools are still themselves being developed and they're not sort of perfect and fine tuned, it's been challenging. Like the AI intersection with finance isn't clear. I talk to a lot of people and they sort of haven't figured it out and they ignore it until it gets better to use. So there's definitely a lot of trial and error. I wouldn't say a key finance skill because I would say the key skill is, perseverance, watching a lot of YouTube videos, that show, potential and capability, but then trial and error to try to figure it out, myself on how to actually implement these things. For some simple stuff like processing expenses, using AI is a lot easier. Stripe for Stripe Crypto, they have a lot of tools for receiving payments. But in terms of building dashboards and leveraging AI from that capability, it's still like not perfect. I think there's definitely a lot of room to grow even for myself. But the key skill is just to have that curiosity and consistency and the drive to keep trying until you stumble across something or you get successful on what you're trying to build with AI.
Okay, thank you, Mohan. And I want to ask, you say, the AI and the tech regulatory really reshape your daily tasks. And how do you see the future or how the tech change the way of the CFO positions or finance position and adds value?
Yeah, so it definitely changes the position of the finance function. 10 years ago we were saying the same thing, and I think what year? I can't remember when Power BI first came, and it was like, whoa, you can plug in data from SAP into Power BI and get more live dashboards. That was something that they started to teach in schools. And then now it's become like a basic skill per se. Definitely with AI, it's helped with Excel because when you're building models, for example, you can use AI to help you write formulas. So you spend less time maybe taking an Excel course and you spend more time learning how to prompt AI to build these dashboards without needing to learn complex formulas. The role of the CFO is shifting from not just knowing about the history of numbers, but to, I would say, be more involved on decision making. I think that's the key. Because AI and blockchain, it's going to get rid of a lot of the manual work. You won't spend time on reconciliations. You won't spend time on budget versus actuals variance because you'll just get AI to tell you why is there variance, what are the key things that are causing this variance. Building financial reports is a lot easier, so you're not going to spend as much time building financial reports. So in that perspective, you're spending less time and value towards these things that are sort of routine that AI can give you as a baseline. Now the key is, okay, you have all this real-time data, but now how can you make fast decisions? Should we go through this client venue or not? Should we do this business opportunity or not? That's where the CFO skills become very important, because everyone's going to be good at the manual work, because AI made it faster. But now who's going to be good at making the right decisions where you need sort of like the human decision making, the relationship building. In Web3, we integrate wallets, on-chain analytics. These things go into your treasury. In AI, it means you build forecast models that include fiat currency as well as also fiat currency as well as the cryptocurrency, and it has to adapt. So AI helps you to adapt to market or product changes. So I think that's the key is the future. CFO will, or any sort of finance leader needs to think in terms of automation and translate that data across the entire company, the whole organization, so that everybody else understands like these are the decisions and this is why.
Wow, thank you, Mohan. I love you say the AI tools or other tools that save our times, and the really important is the decision we make, and we have to like try to do automations and save more times and do more like important decisions. And I want to like switching another topic for a moment because I'm personally really curious about, because you say you do audits, do manufacturing and entertainment experience that's gave you to have useful angles to be in Web3, but what's moving into Web3? It's that you plan, or did it's come as an unexpected turning point?
So essentially, just to make sure I understand your question, how did I get into Web3 essentially? Is that where you're going?
Yes.
Yeah, so I was in a pharmaceutical company probably 2017, 2016. I started learning about Bitcoin. I actually started learning about Bitcoin mining around 2016. And I think then I was following Bitcoin. Ethereum probably was like $8 at that time. I didn't understand how to buy it. And then, you get curious and you start digging deeper into the industry. And then I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Then, Tron comes and Ripple, and there's so many other things there. And then, eventually it didn't let go. It was like you go down the rabbit hole and you think, hey, I'm just checking this out. And then the rabbit hole kept getting deeper.
It's a journey.
Yeah. It's a journey. It's funny because like 2016, 2017, then when I left my corporate job to go to crypto, I think everyone thought, oh, this guy's crazy. And then now it's become normalized where it almost seems like just an ordinary industry, just like every other industry, except that it's way more volatile. But it's become a lot more normalized. When I went to Consensus in Toronto, that was last month, it's very mainstream. I'm at a banking event with key institutional banks, Franklin Templeton, A16Z. These are big VC firms. And so it's not really like degen anymore. The payment infrastructure is a lot better. It's a lot stronger. The off-ramp and on-ramp from crypto to fiat, payroll solutions, everything's more advanced now, where it doesn't seem like such a strange industry to be in anymore.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Kai, do you have any other questions?
No. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Mohan.
you.
Thank you, Kai.
And Mohammed, there's a question from one of our listeners.
Yes.
Could you share with us any challenges or setbacks you faced during your transition to Web3? We all know you're always successful, but we would also like to hear about some of your setbacks or challenges.
Oh, I'm definitely not always successful.
Okay, so could you share with us some challenges and how you got through this?
Yeah, for sure. So are you trying to say challenges getting into the Web3 industry?
Yeah. During your transition, because, for example, I myself is a finance people from traditional industries, and I don't know. I know you told us to just now to be active, to add value, to build our own brand, but I don't know what kind of setbacks or challenges I would face. So I would like to hear some of your stories.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
a couple of things. When I first wanted to be in the Web3 industry, probably like 2017, there wasn't really that many jobs in the industry. And I was thinking from that mindset of, oh, let me wait for finance posting and apply to a job. I reached out to a recruiter probably in like 2020. And I had interviews with Web3 companies. I kept getting rejected. Actually, I probably got rejected maybe 10 times before I finally got a Web3 like full-time job in the industry. Definitely got rejected a lot. But it was like, what did I learn from those rejections? One thing was, in one of the interviews, they asked me, okay, do you know how to extract data from MetaMask wallets and be able to produce financial reports from that? Somebody who's not in a Web3 industry like I am now would be like, what do you mean? Like, how do I do that? So when that came up as a question, I was like, I have no idea. But I didn't think, oh, back then you could just, download your MetaMask wallet transaction history, import it into something else like Excel, and build a report from that. It's advanced a lot nowadays where there's tools that will do that for you, like Cryptoworth or CoinTracker. So I think that was my setback, that I didn't know about those key skills that you don't learn in a traditional finance world. You don't learn that just by being in a Discord channel. But if you have those skills ahead of time where, you play with raw data, maybe your own, some people have their own MetaMask wallets and they do a lot of trading or whatever DeFi stuff. Maybe if you plug that into some sort of subledger tool like a Cryptoworth, you'll be able to see, here's all the assets you hold across all these 10 different wallets, and here's the gain and loss, and here's reports that can produce financial statements. So those were challenges and setbacks, is just because I was still thinking from a traditional finance hat, and being a finance guy is different than marketing. Marketing people, you could just probably jump in Twitter and write posts all day and create memes and people say, oh, this is cool. Versus finance, you need to have strong knowledge on blockchain explorers, strong knowledge on wallets. So that was my setback, is I thought I was good, but I wasn't good, and I kept getting rejected until I said, you know what, let me play with these tools myself. So I played with it before I got before I got accepted to the first job in the industry, and I felt like that helped me quite significantly.
Okay.
And I would say it also doesn't end, because even if what I've been doing over the last say 2.5 years at my current role, if I were to go somewhere else, I'm sure they would want to know, like, hey, how much do you know about DeFi? And DeFi, if I'm not paying attention to it, it can expand and it can change so much in 1 year. There's a lot of complicated DeFi strategies that I probably don't know. It's very challenging to stay current and to understand the latest sort of trends or how the market strategies operate.
Yeah. But now you only spend only 1 hour per week to stay current.
Yeah, for sure. And the other big challenge is to also, like, I want to say, unlearn what you know from traditional finance world. Traditional finance world, sometimes people learn structure, versus now you go to places where there's messy protocols. I don't mean to say names, but like, for example, when we're working in Polkadot ecosystem with multi-sig wallets and you're trying to stake dot transactions, it's very challenging. There's no like guide out there. And when I try to go into Telegram channel and ask questions, I don't understand, and it feels like you need a PhD in engineering to understand sometimes. So that's where you have fragmented tools that don't always solve all your problems. You have regulatory gray zones. You have banking challenges. Crypto, some like payment solutions are not crypto friendly, for example. So that's where you know stuff from a traditional finance lens, but it doesn't always work on a Web3 world.
Okay. Yeah. that takes time.
Yeah, it definitely takes time. It's definitely a challenge being in the industry and getting used to it.
Mm. Okay. Let me see if any other questions from our listeners. Okay. One of the questions is that for team setup, you just mentioned that you said you have a very lean team. So can you share some details about the size of your team and the job allocation? And could you share with us why you do this kind of allocations?
Yeah, so there's actually 3 of us right now. There's myself, the head of finance, there's a manager on the team, and there is a bookkeeper. It's relatively lean. Maybe it could, yeah, I would say it's pretty lean. The manager does a lot of compliance, financial reporting. There's a lot of tax stuff because we have entities across 4 different countries. The bookkeeper does a lot of the day-to-day payments, payroll, and sort of like the month-end, bank reconciliations and some things which we haven't automated yet, but he's very active on payments. Myself, I would say a lot more active on runway forecasting, budget versus actuals, a lot of the FP&A side of things, as well as reviewing from the compliance side to make sure we're on side. And then there's just always changing priorities. There's a lot of stuff with crypto that I oversee, staking transactions from different wallets, and all of the wallet management stuff is where I oversee things. If we get a new client, sometimes they want to spin up new wallets. And I would say overseeing the function, but also just every other function within the company, making sure all the engineers are happy, marketing, supporting them with oversight on profitability of different divisions in the company.
Oh, okay, that's really lean. From what I hear, it's really lean. Okay. Seems that we don't have any questions from listeners. If no other questions, we should say this is.
Sorry, this is Sober. May I ask? The last questions for Mohamed.
Sure.
Just like the issue with Bybit before, the security issue, as the wallet was hacked. So how do you ensure the security? Especially you need to do all the wallet management. What tool would you recommend, or any process or SOP or any specific tools? Yeah, or how do you deploy the multi-signature process?
Yeah, so definitely you do need the multi-sig or reviewing appropriate insurance. I don't think Bybit was hacked. I think actually what happened is somebody, accidentally gave a key. So, wallets don't necessarily get hacked, but the security is a big challenge. Without saying too much, we get approached by phishing scams all the time. I think they're just going to constantly approach different crypto companies, and being constantly cognizant of the fact that you could be a target. I think that's one thing. But then from an email security, we have processes in place to ensure safety of email, from payroll when you're paying people with crypto. We do have a lot of internal processes for safeguarding of assets. Some funds are segregated, meaning don't put all the funds in one wallet, and they have very specific purposes that are identified. So that's, top of mind. Every Web3 company, the security of the assets is top of mind. Balancing between cash and crypto is very important, because as much as people don't like to hear it, you don't have as much risk and concern when you have it as fiat in a insured local bank, like federal bank.
Okay, great. Thank you for your sharing. And I noticed, Kai, do you also have questions? Yeah, you can open your
Yeah.
mic.
Hi, Moham. I want to have another last question.
Sure.
So you say as a finance lead, you have to have strong domain knowledge, and you also might have stay highly technical. So, but it's always have new tech and regulations like emerging all the time. But how do you decide which areas you have to focus, or like how do you filter the information that's matter most?
That's actually a tough one. So how do you decide which areas to focus on? Are you talking today priorities? I would say like the focus area, obviously you have to focus on quite transparently. The revenue generation of the company is obviously the main focus. We're not operating as a not-for-profit, so driving from that perspective is always key. So that's when you do prioritization. Regulatory stuff, we always have to comply within their deadlines. So that's quite key. And then factoring risk management. Risk management is always top of mind. So I would say, okay, you're driving revenue, but you also have to factor regulatory compliance matters and then also risk management, meaning reporting to investors, auditors. Those things are always priority. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you, Mohan.
Fantastic. It's been quite insightful just listening to some of the questions everyone has. It helped me to also think about these things.
Yeah, we also think your sharing is very insightful. I'm sure that everyone has gained a lot from you and now has a deeper understanding of the Web3 industry from the finance point of view.
Awesome.
Hi, sir. This is Willie. Hi. If you don't mind my asking, since it sounds like the Web3 industry is pretty attractive, and also you have to put a lot of effort into it. But there's one thing that I would like to know that before you get hired into a job or a company, especially during the bear market, I've heard some story that there's a company one day you're just normally working and like tomorrow your company is like vanished and you get hired without announcement. So does it really happens? And have you ever encountered such circumstances like that?
Does it really happen? The answer is yes. Have you ever seen this? The answer is yes.
Oh, I see.
So
Okay.
bear market, it forces clarity. This is unfortunate nature. It's because the industry is relatively new, or it's been very volatile. So when you have peak euphoria of a bull market, you have companies that go to a valuation of $1 billion very suddenly. A lot of times that means not being clear on how much they need to spend and how much they need to keep and what's priorities, because you're just making so much money. Your crypto asset treasury has gone up. Then bear market forces clarity to sort of see the clear picture. Do we need to cut back on these expenses? Is this staff requirement of 100 people really that important? Bear market makes people look at, how much money do we have to run? How long will this keep us to last? And are these 10 people actually contributing, or are we just not using them? And unfortunately, it should be something you think about in a bull market, but that's not how it traditionally operates. That's just human psychology. I would say it's the human side of things. It's tough, but as a finance person, you have to help the founders to make clear decisions. You try to echo it and not have emotions in the bull run, knowing that, there's peaks and valleys. In the bull run, don't get too excited. In the bear market, don't get too depressed, because things always come back to the middle. The key is to be transparent, data-backed, and fast. Don't drag the decisions to make it hurt by letting it drag on. If you let it drag on, then you're burning more cash. But you also have to make smart decisions in a bull run so that you don't face this challenge of a bear market. But it's not just a crypto thing. It's every industry. When you're in the tech sector, if there's a global economy recession or depression, people are going to lose their jobs. So I wouldn't ask it from a crypto perspective. I think it's just general that crypto is new as an industry, so it's more volatile. It's important to stay away from the noise to think, this is a crypto thing, versus it's just economics.
Understood. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Understood now. Thanks.
Let's wait for the next question. $30 minutes. 30 seconds, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, seems that no further questions. I believe that we gain a lot, and we have connected with Mohamed, so we may reach out to Mohamed if we have future questions. I myself will try to apply to the Web3 finance community. I already appointed interview tomorrow, so I will join that community. So now, once again, we want to thank you, Mohamed, for your valuable insights. And also, big thanks to all our listeners for joining us today. Mighty DAO will continue to invite Web3 professionals around the world to share their stories, challenges, and success tips in this industry. This interview will also be available on our podcast channel, Inside Web3 Careers, which can be found on Apple Podcast and Spotify. If you would like to listen again, feel free to do so and share the recording with your friends as well. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. If anyone would like to connect with me, I'm very open to having conversations, and it's been a pleasure speaking to you all.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.